Energy Management Center, as you know, is the state nodal agency for energy conservation activities in the state as per the provisions of the Energy Conservation Act 2001. Along with this energy conservation activities, EMC also take care of the activities in the field of renewable energy, especially small hydropower projects, wherein EMC is the state nodal agency for the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, Government of India, as well as we are the technical secretariat for the small hydropower implementation in the state. Altogether, the projects being dealt with by EMC may come to more than 100 direct things, and we have identified close to 700 different projects all around Kerala, possible locations where we can have small hydropower projects. This webinar is part of EMC's series of webinars which we are conducting from 5th June 2020, the World Environment Day, which extends up to the 22nd March 2020, the World Water Day. Today's session is a very important session as far as the climate change activities or green development activities, because there is small hydropower is considered as among the one of the environmentally benign sources of energy. Of course, there are projects which may have some effects on the environment, but those things apart, small hydropower is considered one of the benign sources of energy. Therefore, India has been attempting to do more and more small hydro projects which are considered firm as compared to other renewable energy sources like solar or wind power generation, or even sometimes the tidal projects. Now, today we will be, I think our speaker will be discussing more about what are the scope for small hydropower development in the state, as well as the current policies of the state, along with some technology trends and the projects which we had dealt with in the recent years. We have dealt with even 21 megawatt projects during 2000 years onwards, but maybe the latest we will, I think he will be discussing about the latest trends evolving in this scenario. Today with us we have Engineer G. Anil, who was the Joint Director of Energy Management Center until this last May, and he even now continues to cooperate with Energy Management Center for various technical consultancy activities, as well as advisory supports being provided to us in the field of energy. I mean small hydropower project development. He is a mechanical engineering graduate from College of Engineering Trivandrum with a post-graduation in Industrial Engineering and Management from JNTU, Hyderabad. He has an industrial experience of over 35 years in rotary machinery, hydroelectric power projects, and related consultancy assignments. He had been involved in the UNIDO regional, which was functioning in Energy Management Center as a project sometimes back, through which he had even dealt with the projects in other countries like Sri Lanka, some African countries, as well as in Nepal, and he had been trained with the International Network for Small Hydropower in China for a period of 6 months as part of his activities within EMC. He was initially working with the Steel Industrials Limited Kerala, a Government of India company, Government of Kerala company, which in which he has been taking care of the turnkey hydroelectric project execution in the power engineering division of Hostler Silk, a subsidiary firm within Silk for small hydropower development. After which he has joined the Energy Management Center during 1998, and he retired last year only. He was Joint Director EMC at the time of his retirement. With this, I would better transfer the podium to Anil sir. Good morning, sir. You're welcome.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dinesh Kumar. Thank you. Thank you for nice words and of introduction. And good morning to you all participants and our hosts from EMC. Thank you. We know we are at the worst time of the COVID-19 pandemic, and most of us are staying indoors and not to get outside, because of to avoid the spread and of this COVID. So people are now accustomed to webinars, I think, because people are sitting at home, so they are accustomed to these type of webinars. And probably, I don't know, sometimes the hotel industry may lose their share of business. Not only the hotel industry, but the transport sector as well. But as you know, if there is a hill, there is a slope. So these things are natural, and automatically it will get balanced. These are the way of life, the new light will come, let us hope. And in fact, I was under this self-imposed quarantine, because of the suspect of primary contact a couple of weeks, and a couple of days back I did the antigen test and luckily it is negative. So be safe and stay healthy. That's the order of the day, Yeah. So in this context, let me start the presentation of today's topic, that is the scope of small hydropower projects, the potential, then policies and emerging technologies I will be touching upon. So I will go to my first slide. This is the energy scenario of India. See, we have now installed capacity of more than 3.5 lakh of megawatt, the third largest electricity producer after China, USA. So out of that, the share of thermal energy is 220 gigawatts. Gigawatt is nothing but 1,000 gigawatt is 1 megawatt. 1 gigawatt, yes, this is 10 raised to 6, whereas the megawatt is 10 raised to 3. So this is 220 gigawatt. Then hydro, you have 45 gigawatt, nuclear 6.8 gigawatt, then renewables around 63 gigawatt. Out of that, solar is 18 gigawatt and wind 36 gigawatt. Then why renewable energy? See, people ask why this renewable energy. For that, I just quote our late Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, who was our former president and the greatest scientist. So I quote, traditionally, human society has seen through four levels of fuels. The first fuel is wood, which began with the discovery of fire some 1 million years ago. The second fuel is oil, and particularly petroleum products, which is as recent as late 19th century, only a little over 100 years old. The third fuel is nuclear, which is barely 50 years old. Now, the fourth fuel is being termed as the green energy, green sources like solar and small hydro, which are becoming commercially viable and technologically feasible in the past 2 decades. Now, we are really talking of the fifth fuel, which is not hardware fuel in the conventional sense, it is energy efficiency. So if you are using energy efficient products, you have to use energy efficient products while you are trying renewable energy, because renewable energy is slightly costly nowadays. Of course, when the technology stabilizes and it gets popularized, the rate also will come down. Now even the solar prices have almost come down, to say 2 rupee 50 paise or 3 rupees per unit. Just 15 years back, it was around 15 rupees per unit. And even the install capacity rate, the capacity per unit, per megawatt rate, solar, it was around 15 crores per megawatt. Now it has come down to, say, 3-4 crores. So while using you have to use energy efficient equipments also. Even EMC is their core area is now energy efficient technologies and their popularization. Yeah. So this why this is the renewable energy, because and out of that the SHP, when you take, this is an environmental friendly and pollution free source. Then you have a good PLF, because you have water, you can run the hydel plant, small hydel plant throughout the year. But of course, you should have water, and even if it is a seasonal one, probably you can run 24 hours a day. Whereas solar, you can run only hardly 6 hours. So the PLF is almost, say, we can say 4 times than that of solar, Yeah. Then and another thing is India, they ratified the Paris Climate Agreement and established a goal of generating 40% of its electricity from renewable energy sources by 2030. So now the government of India has even enhanced the capacity of this hydro definition to 200 megawatt installed capacity for getting this advantage, Yeah. And now India, we plan to add 175 gigawatt of renewable energy by 2022. Out of that, 100 gigawatt of solar and 60 gigawatt wind and balance hydro, bio, etc. Then these are the classification of hydropower projects. Of course, this is only for administrative convenience, for the subsidies and other things. So 1 megawatt to 25 megawatt is considered as small hydro projects. Then 100 kilowatt to 1 megawatt as mini. Then 5 kilowatt to 100 kilowatt as micro, and even small projects less than 5 kilowatt projects are called pico hydro. These are only for administrative easiness or for categorization. And now if you come to Kerala, when we see the Kerala scenario, see, we have almost 2,200 plus megawatt of hydroelectric capacity. Out of that, we have, fortunately, we have around 200 megawatt of small hydropower projects from government as well as private sector. So government sector, I mean the state utility, Kerala State Electricity Board, And we have some local panchayats, the Palakkad Jilla Panchayat, who's running a 3 megawatt project at near Palghat, then we have some small projects, so 100 kilowatt plus, like Mangulam Grama Panchayat and all. Then we have the independent power producers and these captive power producers in Kerala. Previously we used to allot these projects on MOU basis, and now we have adopted the tendering route. Then we have some 250 kilowatts of microhydel and 150 kilowatts of picohydel. Even while I was at EMC, we completed around 140 these picohydro stations with MNRE subsidy in Kerala. All the capacity ranges from 2 to say 4 or 5 kilowatts. Yeah. They're all isolated type of projects for these remote areas. Now, when you come to the policy side, see, long back, Kerala, we used to allot these projects on MOU basis. That is, the state utility, out of their file of these projects, they allot some projects to some industries on MOU basis. But as you know, this coal scam and all, because of that, because all these water is a state subject and the state resource, so it is to be allotted in a very proper manner. So government has introduced this allotment through tendering basis. And prior to 2003, it was done by the state utility, KSEB, that Kerala State Electricity Board. Then during 2003 and all, this has been assigned to Energy Management, EMC. So now EMC is the actually the secretariat, or rather they have a special cell of small hydro power cell under the secretary power to select these projects, shortlist, and to allot these projects on board basis through competitive tendering. So this there is the policy which the current policy is 2012 policy, Kerala State Small Hydro Policy 2012. This the 26 that is the revision of the 2006 policy. And in this policy, the proposed target through private participation decided for the 5 years was 150 megawatt. And but unfortunately, we could add only around 30-40 megawatts, so 30-35% of this because of various reasons. This environment, the forest clearance issues, the land acquisition issues, those things for bigger projects, not for this micro or mini and small projects, but for small hydro projects. That is, small hydro projects means the maximum limit of the installed capacity is 25 megawatt. So the average capacity of a small hydro project is say 5 megawatt to 8 megawatt, 10 megawatt, like that. Those projects have this clearances of forest, MOI and EF, then land acquisition. Those issues have somewhat retarded the progress of this scheme, not only in Kerala, but throughout India, not only throughout India, throughout the world. Yeah. Now, I think even the bigger manufacturers, those are all going for compact hydro machines, so that they can supply these type of machines to these small players and local players, so that isolated or these isolated areas, decentralized power generation is possible. And not only that, now we are going in for microgrids. So these isolated projects will be an added advantage for these microgrids. Then the policy highlights. See, in Kerala, this is the Kerala policy I'm talking about. Different states have different policies based on the guidelines of these regulatory commissions and India government. So here in Kerala, we allowed these projects for 30 years. That is 30 years from the date of allotment. Previously, it was 30 years after the commissioning, but some of the projects got delayed, and to avoid this and to give some incentive to the implementer, the promoter, this 30-year boot period from the date of allotment is put, so that if you do the project in a very short time, then you will get that much more of boot period. That is the idea behind it. Then SSV projects, these projects actually, these are all projects identified by the state utility, KSEB, then Energy Management Center, EMC, and other state agencies. And during this allotment tendering process, before that, we select these projects and with the permission of the concerned utilities, because whether this selected project is falling with some of the projects of the utility or the water authority, things like that. And then we post these to the government, and government selects, finally approves this, and EMC as the nodal agency and the secretariat for this allotment usually conduct the competitive tendering on RFQ basis. That is the selected projects by the government. Then there is another scheme, that is, if you own land and say it's an estate, and there is a stream or a small river or canal going inside your area, then you can directly apply to the government. That is, you have to apply to the government and say that we have a potential site in my area, and then through EMC and the government, you get a clearance for going in for this preparation of project report, of course at your risk and cost. Then you have to submit it to the government, and the government technical committee scrutinizes the project, and finally government approves the project. That is another thing. And there are other projects, SHV projects allotted to these local self-government, that is panchayatulku kodukkunnu. Panchayatulku, as per the Panchayati Raj Act, the smaller projects they can run, they can generate, they can even distribute as per the Panchayati Raj Act. And as per this policy, these local self-governments can go up to projects of 500 kilowatt without bidding through this PPP route, public private partnership route. Of course, the partner should be again selected through competitive bidding to avoid controversies. Then in this policy, banking is allowed, then relief in demand charges for captive power projects. Captive power projects, these are the projects promoted by the industrialists in Kerala for their consumption. So those projects will get this benefit. Another benefit is, see, they are using the generated power, because power will be generated at a plant far away from their unit, and through the regulatory commission's approval, you can utilize the KSEB's transmission lines to transmit this power and draw at your plant. But of course, you will have to give wheeling and other transmission charges to KSEB. So the advantage is, once you invest and complete the project, 30 years we are safe, because there is no inflation or no price hike for your unit cost. That is one advantage. And for PPP, that is just like merchant stations, you just like an industry, you start a power station and then you can either sell this to the utility or to any third party inside Kerala or outside, as per the latest Electricity Act. So these are PPP, IPP projects, that is independent power producers. Then the bidding premium is, the current premium is 15 lakhs per megawatt. That is a threshold premium. So whoever bids the highest premium, that particular project goes to that party. Of course, the cell checks your financial capability, your net worth and all before allotting these projects. Because whether if you are allotted a project of say 10 megawatt, whether you are financially sound to complete that project. So depending upon the net worth of your company, they limit the bidding capacity and allot these projects. Of course, now the new guidelines are coming, I think, because because for solar, wind, and all, now you have this competitive bidding on a tariff basis. So soon, this now in the draft of MNRE itself, where they have introduced this bidding on tariff-based route. But the difficulty in small hydro is that, see, it's not like solar or wind, because solar and all wind, you can select any site where you get light or wind. But for small hydro, you should get a proper site with facility, water, river, or the stream. Then these high-head projects, most of the projects will be on hilly areas, so there will be this forest and MOF restrictions. So bidding is not that easy, but what the proposal of MNRE is, see, the government will have to prepare a shelf of projects. So they have to conduct preliminary study, they have to conduct a detailed survey and investigation, and prepare a proper detailed project report, rather a techno-economic feasibility report. Then they will have to take all the clearances, including forest clearance. After only this, they are supposed to go in for this bidding. That's what the new MNRE draft rule says. Soon it may come. So what they say is that is less like they will put a threshold rate. Say if it is 4 rupees per unit, then people will have to quote. They can quote, of course, below that 4 rupee rate. But above 4 rupee rate, again, you will have to give what is the viability gap required for your project. So they will ask the viability gap that will be provided by MNRE. So that's the scenario which is going to come soon. But the state and other utilities will have to prepare these detailed reports, including sanctions, land allocation. All these things will have to be strictly followed. It's not an easy thing, but of course, you will get a very this unit rate, very competitive rates if this scenario works out well. Then other highlights, one is, of course, the promoter will have to do for private projects, private projects, promoter will have to acquire the land required for the project. Of course, government will provide all facilities. But in the policy says that if you have procured at least 75% of the land, then you will be, the government will intervene and take the balance land for you if there is any issue. But this is also very difficult because the new rules have come and central rules have come for this land acquisition. So even this is difficult nowadays. Then for sorting out some major issues, intra-departmental issues and other issues, there is a high power committee headed by the Chief Secretary himself, with members from all the heads of the concerned departments. So if there is an important issue, then you can raise this issue to this high power committee through Energy Management Center and Power Department, so that in the quarterly meetings, this will be taken up. And since it's a high power committee, you can get a solution soon. That is one good thing. Then there is an evaluation committee chaired by the Secretary Power, with representatives from Forest, Irrigation, State Utility, KSEB, then EMC, for evaluation and monitoring of these projects. So actually, you have to, these promoters also will have to take interest in this. So after getting the allotment, if you are sleeping for years and then coming out with an issue, that might be difficult. You have to also take interest in your projects, whatever you allotted, for the speedy completion, so that you can also insist for conducting these evaluation committee meetings, review meetings, even at least a month or in a quarter, so that the smaller minor issues you can raise, the promoters can raise these issues in these meetings, then you can. So I don't know whether these evaluation committee meeting headed by the Secretary Power is now going on as per planned, because of this unusual situation of pandemic and these restrictions and all. But still, if the promoters have any issues, you can take it up with Power, take it up with the Energy Management Center. Yes, they will do the right thing for you. Then for the technical clearance, if you submit a TEFR, that is a Techno-Economic Feasibility Report, it is nothing but an enlarged, detailed project report with financial terms and other things, because after all, you will be approaching the financial institutions for getting your funding, But all these hydro projects, the financial institutions, they insist for 30% of your equity, and balance 30% you can get it from the financial institutions. For that, you should have a bankable project report, TEFR, because we can approach the banks or Power Finance Corporation or IREDA, Indian Renewable Energy Development Agency, that is under Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, Government of India, all this. And in Kerala, we have this Kerala Power Finance Corporation under the Power Department. You can also approach them, or this KSIDC, Kerala State Industrial Development Corporation. They also provide you this funding if you have a proper bankable project report. So for that, you should have a proper report. So if you submit the report to the government, that is through Energy Management Center, there is a government-appointed technical committee, including members from KSEB, Irrigation, and also from external experts. They will go through your report and provide you suggestions or corrections. And finally, when they give the green signal, it goes to government, and then government, through cabinet, allot you these projects. So a bankable report, project report, is very important for the speedy execution and financial closure of your project. Then there are a lot of confusion, how to proceed and all. So the EMC, based on the government orders, they have prepared a chronological sequence of events for SHP implementation. Projects allotted by government on boot basis. That is, the first thing is they announce these allotment of projects, government come out with the bids for announcing, say, this many projects are there for tender, these are the capacities, minimum capacities. Then they come out with a request for proposal tender, in which one they will ask your financials, like your net worth and things like that, for allotting you the benchmark for your limit for bidding, the projects. Then they come out with an RFQ, the request for proposal, so that there you can get the details of the projects, so that the bidders can go and see the sites, assess the sites, and then come back and do your bidding. And right now, the bidding is based on threshold premium, as I said earlier. So last bidding was on 2018 or so. So around 20 projects have been allotted. But there is some issue, that is the rate, because previously there is a regulatory commission order. Whoever generates this renewable energy, the state utility or the other players are supposed to purchase that power at the unit rate fixed by the Kerala Electricity Regulatory Commission. So they used to give a generic tariff for projects below 5 megawatt, and a project-specific tariff nowadays for projects above 5 megawatt. And even they used to have a now the current regulation says for projects below 5 megawatt, you have a unit rate of say 5 rupee plus, that is 5 rupee plus per kilowatt hour. And then there is a tariff of 4 rupee plus 4 rupee 50 paise plus for projects above the rate capacity of 5 megawatt up to 25 megawatt. But nowadays what the electricity boards, they say they are financially weak, and if they can get cheaper power from outside and all, so they now insist for cheaper prices, that may not be that feasible for the promoter. But they last time also they approached the regulatory commission, asked for a rate that is based on the generic tariff or project-specific tariff, whichever is lower. So the recent commission sittings, commissions have taken a stand that bigger projects, the promoter will have to provide the actual data, actual expenditure statement, and based on that, they provide, they decide the unit rate. That is, with what rate the board can take this power. Then that is, you are supposed to provide this petition to the Kerala State Electricity Regulatory Commission after the COD, that is the commercial operation date. Then you can have there is a standard PPA, power purchase agreement, available with KSEB, and with that you can approach the Kerala State Electricity Regulatory Commission, and they, during the sitting, they collect all this data, and based on the arguments, they come out with a proper unit rate for the utility to take your power. That is there. Then see, after the government order, allotting project to you, you are supposed to submit, remit this 50% of this premium quoted by you to the Energy Management Center. They will collect this fund and transfer it to the government. Then the next payment for 50%, you will have to provide a bank guarantee. And then after your submission and approval of your DPR, your TEFR, you have to remit the balance amount. Then after getting this TEFR approved by the committee and the government, the power department allots its projects to you based on a government order, on a cabinet decision. Then you are ready now to go in for construction of your project. But of course, you will have to abide by all the rules prevailing, Then you have to, if there is a forest land involved, then you have to get the clearance on the forest department. That procedures you will have to follow. Then for river utilizing constructing of dam and all, you will have to get the clearance of irrigation department. Then uh, other clearances from concerned departments like this revenue, then for mineral department, for construction work, for the blasting rocks and all. Yes, those uh, things you will have to abide. Then you are supposed to approach regulatory, this electricity inspectorate also for your electrical circuit approvals and all. So those regular things we will have to properly do while when you start the construction of these projects. These are some of the details. Probably, I think EMC will be giving the notes on this to you directly. So I am not just elaborating on this. You have any doubts, in the QA session you can raise. Some of the raise, whatever I can clear, and the balance EMC would, our power department can clear. Then the own land category. Own land category is a new one introduced during this 2012. And as such, there are only two schemes allotted under this scheme. One Mukudam hydroelectric project and another Vellakayam project. And so many other proposals are coming in. That's what I heard from EMC. So for that, you first approach the government, and EMC, that you have a potential site and you have this land, it is flowing, or these all structures are coming inside your land. Then with that request, if you approach EMC and power department, they give you a sanction, as I said earlier, for going in for this DPR preparation. And after vetting by the technical committee, the government allows you the project. And again, there is one more issue, because even if it is your land, the river banks are all revenue land. That is the river Poramboka, that is revenue land. So you will have to pay this cess or water to the concerned local panchayat. That you can take it for say 20 years or 30 years, or even you can extend that. So that we will have to make arrangements with the local panchayat, because before starting this project, you will have to get the clearance of local self-government, whether it is this municipality or panchayat area. You will have to get this permission. It's just like constructing the building or other things. But since the small hydro is considered a green and white industry area. Then one advantage of this own land category is you can own this project till the project lasts, or even you can after that you can again rebuild the project, because the access to this planned area, through your land, so that the concession is there. And all the other formalities are similar to other IPP, CPP projects. You will have to approach after COD. You will have to approach electricity, this Kerala State Electricity Regulatory Commission for fixing the rate with a PPA, draft PPA from KSEB, and they will decide the rate and do the rest. So you can either um, sell this generated power to KSEB or even give it to a third party. All other formalities are similar for other IPP projects. Then for local self-government, local panchayat projects, some of the projects, which are not identified or selected by the government, those projects, they can directly approach the government for allotment. With the minimum, the threshold premium if they pay, the government will allot the project to local bodies. So similarly, this Meen Mandalam project of Palakkad Jilla Panchayat and other projects of Thrissur Corporation, recently government have given given the allotment to this Thrissur Corporation, based on this norm. Then, of course, the other norms are similar because whatever rules are there are applicable for government bodies as well. You cannot change the rule for a government body. All other procedures are similar, including the fixing of this unit rate of this power project. This in a detailed fashion it is given by EMC. So they will be collecting these data and they will be giving it to all, including the panchayats, these sequence of operation to avoid unnecessary hurdles, while construction. Then after the policy, let us come back to the hydro turbines, because I am not dealing with big turbines or conventional turbines like Francis or Kaplan or this Pelton turbines. As you know, the turbines are classified into two categories. One is the impulse turbine, the other one is reaction turbines. The impulse turbines, these are all used for high heads like Pelton turbines, those type of turbines. That is, you with the high pressure, you produce a jet of high velocity jet, and then you impinge that jet to the Pelton buckets, and it rotates and it drives a generator and produce electricity. Whereas in this reaction turbines, it is just like a pump, After all, this your turbine is nothing but a pump. Pump run in the reverse mode. So in pump, what you do, you have the electricity available and you connect it to the motor, and the motor drives the generator, the pump, and you can lift the water to a higher elevation. Whereas in turbine, you have water at the higher elevation, and with that potential, you drive a turbine, then the turbine drives the generator, and you produce electricity. It is just the reverse of operation. There is a category called PAT, pump bus turbine, that I will tell when there are some slides on that as well. See, we can tap this power from different sources. So now the easiest thing is, of course, small streams or rivers. But if you have high heads, that is areas, hilly areas, your head is assured and you get more head, so that you require less discharge to produce same amount of power. So for these projects, of course, you will have to first source these type of high heads, so that the water, the risk of water discharge and the availability of water and all will be somewhat saved in the high head projects, because the head is constant always. Then Of course, for hilly, the high heads, you can use even Francis and Pelton type of turbines. Then for low heads, yeah, I'm coming to some these mini micro turbines. You know, you have these propeller turbines. So actually, the Kaplan turbine is nothing but a propeller turbine. Propeller turbine means those turbines, you know, do not have any control over the gate vanes or the blades. So a semi-Kaplan is what a propeller with either movement for the runner blades or for the gate vanes. So full Kaplan is you have movement for both runner blades and your gate vanes. So that based on the differences in the head, you know, based on the, say you have a dam and you have rainy season, it is almost full and you get the maximum head. And during lean season, you get a very minimum head. And discharge also varies depending upon if the discharge is for some water schemes, drinking water schemes and all, then you have to limit the flow as well. So those schemes, you know, this type of Kaplan, full Kaplan is very ideal because you can have the optimum efficiency during any type of this operation at different heads and different discharges. But for small turbines, these are not required, or rather, if you have provide these type of schemes, this type of arrangement, it will be your capex will be very high and it will not be profitable at all. So for low heads, you can there are some new technologies. One is this vortex turbine. That is, you create an artificial vortex, and with that vortex force, you drive a turbine, and then you can connect it to the generator and produce power. Or you have a screw type of turbine. That is just nothing but a screw pump run on the reverse direction. Then you have siphon pumps, because most of the small dams and all, you know, there will not be any provision for this water inlet for taking penstock. So those type of wells or dams, you can have utilize this siphon type of turbine, so that you need not break or the dam, you know, for putting this penstock for water inlet. Then you can also produce power from irrigation canals, sewage flows, tail rays of hydropower, electric power plants, then cooling water channels. Of course, in cooling water channels, you have this kinetic turbines. That is a new type of turbine which runs on the velocity of the flow. It is nothing but a model of a propeller turbine. Yes. So I can show you some pictures when I come to that area. Yeah, this is a picture of a typical hydro power plant. I think you almost all must be familiar with this. I am not. This is, of course, a dam-based project. Of course, the advantage of dam-based project is that you have a dam so that you can collect water, you know, throughout the year. So you have in Kerala, you have 2 monsoons, or the complete water you can store in this dam. And you can have a controlled discharge, you know, throughout the year for producing power. But whereas in small projects, these run-of-the-river schemes, the excess water spills and goes. So because nowadays the higher dams and all, higher capacity dams are not possible because of these environmental restrictions, and you have to restrict the height of the dam so that the submergence is comparatively less. Then these are some of the conventional large hydropower plants. On the left, you can see the Three Gorges Dam. As such, now this is the biggest capacity dam hydroelectric plant in the world. Soon, some other projects will take over this. What I am. Then you have on the top right, left, you know, top left, you have this Hoover Dam of US with the 80 megawatt of installed capacity. And I understand that they are going in for decommissioning of this dam because it is overrun its life. The bottom is our Kerala's pride, the Idiki Arch Dam. See, Idiki Arch Dam, from the water, you take it through a tunnel to underground powerhouse at Mulamattam, where we are producing around 780 megawatts of power with 6 Pelton turbines. Then this is the conventional, again, this conventional small hydro scheme. You have a small weir and you take the water to your turbine through a penstock. This is called the pipe which carries the pressure water to the turbine is called penstock, and then you have some surge tank because when you suddenly close the turbine, there will be this water hammer. To prevent that, you have a small surge tank, then you have a valve house, and then you have power house. This is a conventional small hydro. You can say these are all called the run-of-the-river schemes because you are not storing the excess water because your dam height is restricted. Rather, these type of small dams are called weir, Tadayana, so that the excess water just spills during monsoon season. You cannot utilize that water. These are again typical high head plant. Say you have the mountain ranges, you have this intake, and then you have penstock, you have power hose, and again you have a draft tube, the outlet channel. Again, it goes back to the same river, you know. Then this is a dam, canal-based project. There is a canal here, and you take a bypass, and you can have a power house here. That is the low head type of power houses with couple turbines or propeller turbines. And again, you through the tail race, you again allow the water to again join the stream or the canal. This is a low head classification. Again, this is already we have, I think I have explained. The low head is less than 10 meters, and very low head is less than 5 meters of head, and ultra low head is less than 1 to 1.5 meter head. And you have the zero head turbines as well. That is called the hydrokinetic turbines or the vortex turbines, the zero head turbines. This is the cross section of a cross flow turbine, which can be manufactured locally. It's a very any local craftsman can manufacture this type of turbines, cross flow. This is actually used for say for capacities right from 5 kilowatt, 10 kilowatt to say 50 kilowatt, like that, cross flow turbines. We have some one cross flow 50 kilowatt installation by a private player in Idiki district. That is he has installed two 25 kilowatt such cross flow turbines. Then these are in-stream vertical cross flow turbines. It is two cross flow turbines arranged in vertical fashion. This can be very easily utilized in small canals like this. And this is a typical project we did while I was at the EMC, Energy Management Center. This is a project at Tayannangudi. It's a Pico Hydro project with microgrid. See, you know, the Tayannangudi, it is inside a Chinnar Wildlife Sanctuary. It is inside the Chinnar Wildlife Sanctuary. Actually a tiger reserve, you can say. From the border, forest border, you know, you will have to go around 10 kilometers to reach this Tayannangudi village, where EMC implemented this small micro projects to cater the needs of around 50, 60 families, then and dormitory, and of course, including the transmission lines and street lights we did. And this is the water is taken from the Chinnar River. Actually, this is an old irrigation channel we utilize for this particular project, and this is that small weir for diverting water, and this is the channel for taking the water to the powerhouse. And since this is a very low head project, even we constructed a underground powerhouse that is below the ground level. You can see the crossflow turbine. This is a locally manufactured turbine from Coimbatore. You can see the crossflow turbine and the generator and the controls for that. And August, who is inspecting that turbine. Okay. Then these are Archimedean screw type of turbines. As I said earlier, in olden times we used to pump water to elevated locations, through these screw pumps. And not only water, even in these mines and all, mines and even factories, for lifting material to the process plant and all, they use these type of screws. So this is you are just running the screw in the opposite direction. The other one, you are lifting water. Here you are allowing water to flow from the top. From here, then that flow, because of that flow, the screw rotates and drives the generator and produces power. See, there are projects up to 500 kilowatt with this type of Archimedean screw with turbines. We have an installation in Kerala by the Kerala State Electricity Board, a 12 kilowatt project at the tail race of Peringalkuttu project near Chalakudi. Yes. And this is the vortex flow turbine, which I explained earlier. That is, you create an artificial vortex. See, you collect water, divert water from the river, and you produce an artificial vortex. And with that vortex force, the turbine drives the small generator and produces power. In fact, the KSC, the EMC completed one project inside Trivandrum Corporation limits at Kaduvatti. This is actually the project layout of that. There are two 10 kilowatt turbines. You can see the wells, two wells here, making use of an old weir here. And this is the river Kochar, or Killiyar, it is called, a small river originating from Nedumangad, hardly 20-25 kilometers from Trivandrum city. And you can see I think there's a picture. Oh yeah, this is the aerial view of that vortex turbines. There are two turbines of 10 kilowatt each. You can see the double well, the water, the one well for creating vortex for the first turbine, and there is another water flow inlet channel, and then there's a well for creating another vortex for the second turbine. So the turbine, since the speed of turbine is less because of this head is very low, you have a gearbox for stepping up the speed, and then it is connected to a generator. You can see two fiberglass boxes here, because what will happen is, this is the height of this turbine level, the turbine floor level is say hardly 1 meter above the normal water level of the river. So during high floods and all, water will rise. In fact, this Killiyar, this is since a small river, and since it is running through the corporation limits, people have encroached the banks of the river, and now the river has become very narrow. And if it rains for 6 hours in that place, the Nedumangad, this water level lifts. Flash flood comes and water lifts up to 1 to 1.5 meters above this level. So these fabricated boxes are for preventing this turbine generator flooding, because these type of boxes are used in these oil wells and all, offshore. So when you keep this box here, see inside you have the air inside this box, that prevents this flood water is going inside and damaging the equipment. These are very good for tapping water from small rivers, canals, streams, and all. And another very fantastic idea, that is the PAT, that is the pump house turbine. I told you earlier that the turbine is nothing but a pump. See, here you can see the real pump, working as a turbine. Actually, these turbines are for the Vellakayam micro hydro project. It's a 2 into 45 kilowatt project allotted to Mr. Sleepachan, who is doing this project near Todupuzha, which is almost 80 kilometers from Kochi. So there is a dam, a small weir of 14-meter high, and you can this pad, this is the pump as a turbine, and you have a direct coupling, and you have a this is actually called an IMAG. This is an induction motor run as generator. That is, you are making use of a standard induction motor which runs as a generator when the speed crosses that rated speed limit range. The efficiency will be slightly less, but still you can make use of a standard motor for this. And now this you can see the picture is the current picture. This is from KBL. They have just load tested these turbines, and this is now kept ready for packing. This is the inlet of that turbine, or rather in the pump mode, this is the outlet. So this is the inlet, and the entire assembly is put on a frame, base frame, so that just like a DG set, you can keep this turbine at your powerhouse, which need not be a big powerhouse, just like a pump house you can have. And they are planning, the promoter is planning for some automatic type of panels, so that these turbines can run automatically. Because the advantage is that since these are induction motors, of course you need this capacitor bank to avoid things, but the advantage is that it runs only when the grid is available. If the grid goes, immediately it stops. So you need not have any other protocol arrangement with the nearest substation of the utility. So it is accident free also. I think our friends are from KBL is watching this program, I think. Hello. And this is the pipe turbine. This is also a latest technology. You have a small pipe turbine assembly, which you can easily put in the pipes, drinking water pipes or other pipes, sewage pipes. And this is the hydrokinetic turbine we are referring. This is a floating type. This can float in the river. Of course, you should have flow velocities of the region of 2.4 to 3.1 meters. That is the only disadvantage for this. But now I think manufacturers are coming out with turbines, which can run and even slower velocities as well. This can be used for these streams, small streams, or these tailwaters of hydropower stations, small streams, irrigation canals. Yes, even this is another view of that vortex turbine. Actually, this model was installed by KSEB, by EMC rather, EMC at the Neyveli lignite site at Tamil Nadu. The flow velocity range there is around 2.5 to 2.5 to 2.7 meters, and the power rating is 5 kilowatt. I think we have a picture of this here. Yeah, this is the actual picture of the kinetic turbines. In fact, you can see 4 kinetic turbines here. The flow is this direction. This is the upstream side, and this is the downstream side. And you can see 4 5 kilowatt vortex turbines. This is the cooling water channel of TPS2, Thermal Power Station 2, of the 14. The capacity is 1460 megawatts. Actually, this is the cooling water channel. Even the cooling water pump capacity is around 250 kilowatts there. And unfortunate thing is the accident. Last month there was an accident in this thermal power plant in the boiler section, and with some fatal casualties in their boiler section. So this is running since 16, and I think there is a continuous monitoring of these also. These are another view. This is the view from the downstream side. You can see this. This is again another view. Now machines are underneath the water. This is just like putting the small wind turbines inside water. It's just like that. This is what the picture you have seen earlier is the machines with the machines on top of the water level, and now this is the running during the running time. That is, the machines are inside the this cooling water channel, the water. And this is the log. You can get it at your computer. This, of course, I have put a log almost 2 years back. Now itself, 2 years back it was 1.5 lakh units. Now I think it might have crossed 4 or 5 lakhs. And a similar hydrokinetic turbine EMC is planning at the tail race of Kakkad power plant of KSEB in the Pathanamthitta district. They are also planning that. Yes. So these are all mobile hydro turbines. For if you go for picnic, you can use this. Then we have another section, this pico-hydral projects. See, EMC completed around 125 to 130 pico projects in Kerala. It's, of course, with the support of MNRE, MNRE subsidies. During 17, that subsidy, that 31st of March, during 2017, that subsidy scheme got elapsed. Prior to that, for this pico turbines, that is the turbines less than the capacity of 5 kilowatt, they used to get a subsidy of around 1.5 lakhs of rupees. So such projects, a lot of around 130 projects have been commissioned by EMC throughout Kerala for isolated operations, especially in small cardamom factories, then homes and resorts, and even for forest guard stations. Even we put that time we put a project, this type of pico turbine inside this Silent Valley forest area for the forest guards use. And this is another new thing coming up. This is rubber dams, See, for the small, you can go in for small check dams in rivers, for storing water. So for that, you can have a small rubber dam. It can be built as such. It is just like a cycle tube. You can fill inside with water or air. And the advantage is this just acts like a shutter, just like your dam gate during flood season. You can just release the water from inside of this tube, this is rubber dam, so that it deflates and it acts as a gate, and so that all debris goes down. And when you need to store water during summer season, you can through a pump, you can pump pressurize inside the tube, and then you can make use of this as a dam. So I think in almost all small rivers, if you go in for such rubber dam as check dams, you can store water so that the groundwater level we can increase. Of course, the initial cost is now more. If some manufacturers come out and manufacture these type of things, even the tire manufacturers can easily make if they get sufficient volumes. And Kerala is the state which is producing the maximum number of maximum rubber, the latex, natural latex. So even Kerala can think of starting a small factory for producing these rubber dams. This is a typical arrangement of a rubber dam. You can see the rubber tube, and here you fill pressurize with water. Yes, these are the other views. I think I am running short of time. Yeah, anyway, it has come to the last slide. So stay safe, stay healthy, and wish all participants and our host all the very best, and thank Dinesh and EMC for giving me an opportunity. Yes, and over to the host, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the enlightening session.
Yeah,
so actually, we are having one question from Vinod V. What are the challenges faced by the Pico hydropower plant, which is isolated from the grid in terms of voltage and frequency?
No, we have now very standard control systems utilizing a very small PLC. We don't use this costly hydraulic controls for controlling the flow, to keep the rated RPM constant. Otherwise, if the load increases, you have the crude models, if the load increases, then you have voltage fluctuations and it may spoil your equipment. So here you have a small PLC system for, of course, you don't control the flow. What you control is with a small PLC, you control you are not reducing the load, but your requirement is less, then that much load will be diverted to a small heating pad with this PLC, so that always your frequency and voltage is matched. Even people are using computers with this Pico turbines. So we have almost 100 plus installations in Kerala, and we don't face any such issues. Of course, crude models will be having a lot of issues because there will be speed variation and all, and frequency and voltage may increase or drop, so that it may spoil your equipment. Okay.
Now participants can ask, they are having any question. നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ആർക്കെങ്കിലും എന്തെങ്കിലും ഡൗട്ട് ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ ചോദിക്കാവുന്നതാണ്. മലയാളത്തിൽ ഇംഗ്ലീഷിൽ എങ്ങനെയാണെങ്കിലും കുഴപ്പമില്ല. സാർ അതിന് മറുപടി പറയുന്നതായിരിക്കും. ഒരു 5 മിനിറ്റ് നമുക്ക് അതിനുള്ളൊരു ടൈം അലോട്ട് ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ട്. So we are having 5 minutes for asking doubts or clarification.
Yeah, I would like to ask a question. My name is Rakesh Roy.
Yeah, Rakesh, how are you?
I'm good, sir. I'm good. Thank you.
Yeah.
For others, we are developing the small hydro project Mukkudam in Idukki district.
Yeah,
so
I know.
My question is regarding in our 2012 small hydro policy. It was mentioned that a single window clearance mechanism will be introduced.
Yes.
As far as I understand, it has not came into picture yet.
Yeah, window
So-
is there, but you have still we have to
Yes.
streamline
So you are well aware what
properly.
happened to us because
Ah,
we had to running from pillar to post.
pillar to post, yes.
So even after securing government administrative sanction, uh, we have to go to this one local government revenue LFGD for LFGD department for the river Porambok land, all those things. So
Yeah, I
if a
know
single
because yeah.
mechanism is bring into picture, that will be highly helpful for the developers. I think already this such as a mechanism is available in northern states like Himachal or Uttarakhand.
We do also have these committees as I told earlier, there is a hypo committee headed by the chief secretary with all
Yeah.
department heads as members. So you can raise this issue there if it is a major issue. And otherwise, there is another review committee headed by the power secretary, with EMC as the convener, and other departments like forest, irrigation, electricity board as members. So those issues also you can raise there in the committee. You can request the committee to meet and discuss this. They will do. But as you know, there are a lot of practical problems, even if we say single window, because land acquisition, if it is a private land, there are a lot of issues that we have to tackle still. Yeah.
Anyway, thank you for your response. And what we plan is we plan to submit a detailed proposal to EMC soon in this regard. So EMC will take upon this, and you may submit this proposal to the government, because as you are aware, Kerala we have a lot of unidentified sites. We can tap a lot of projects. So if such a mechanism, that will be highly helpful.
Yes, it's very good. I think Rakesh, your type of people should come up and tap these sources. Otherwise it is just going waste to the sea. So it is just like taking sand from the seashore. If you go and take, nobody will ask. But if you ask for permissions, there will be a lot of issues. It's just like that. Anyway, they are EMC and the power department is streamlining this. Of course, I think that it will be settled soon. And we wish your project all the very best success.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello, sir. Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon.
My name is Jarin Thomas, and I'm working in Munnar with regard to a biodiversity conservation project of UNDP.
Oh, very good, very good.
Yeah, I'm very glad that you were also part of the UNIDO project at Mankulam.
Yes.
Yeah, so I had some initial discussion with Dinesh Sir also. So one of my concern is that right now the SHP at Mankulam is defunct. So I was wondering what would be the possible process that need to be followed if the panchayat is willing to, operationalize it, either in the
Yeah. In fact, one of the members contacted me 1 month back because the elections are around the corner, so they are very alert now. So what I understand is there is some minor electrical problems to that plant, and the panchayat will have to take more interest. They will have to put some operational agency. There was an O&M agency.
Okay.
There were some payment issues and all. I don't think there is a big issue, big technical issue there. Only some minor electrical issues. So probably if the panchayat can take it up, then there are people who can maintain that project well, because it's a 100 plus kilowatt project, and it was earning almost 20 lakh plus revenue for the panchayat. And even the EMC trained some local technicians. They were running the plant. They were also getting their wages from there. So it's a good project. So if UNDP is taking interest for reviving the project, it's well and very good, very good. And in fact, some of the turbines for that project was a gift from one of the turbines was a gift from UNIDO that time. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So they basically need to send some formal communication for a preliminary study to EMC, or can they?
Even the panchayat, they used to give an O&M contract to some local people,
Okay.
Even they can invite a small tender and give it to the local party. Even EMC also, we can take it up. There is absolutely no issue. They can
Okay.
also approach EMC as well. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much for the presentation.
Thank
Yeah. Thank you.
ആരെങ്കിലും പഞ്ചായത്തുകാരുണ്ടോ? anybody from panchayat?
Sir, actually we are having one more question from Jit George. Can EMC have authority to approve projects of at least below 1 megawatt?
No, that is approval of allotment of projects is by the state government, because as you know, the rivers are the property of the government. So if you are utilizing water, even if it is flowing through your compound, water belongs to the state. So for for that you need a government clearance. And also for construction and other activities, when you go to other departments, they will ask for the government approval. So it is better that the project through EMC and through power department goes to the government for allotment, because usually the cabinet order they give and allotting these projects to parties. Of course, the EMC can take it up for even for smaller projects. If they can, government can relax the rules, then it is well and good. For this micro and all, there is no issue. But projects of the capacity of 50 kilowatt and above, then even for power purchase agreement, because after all, when you produce power, either you have to utilize or you have to sell it to the utility or any third party. For that, when you go to the regulatory commission for this approvals, they will ask for the government subsidies. And subsidy part, as you know, the MNRE subsidy scheme got elapsed during 2017, 31st of March 2017. And now there is one draft is there, and that CFA scheme, the MNRE is working on continuation of SHB schemes for projects commencing on 1st of April 2017 and which are likely to be completed during 31st of March 2025. And then the rates fixed for this, unfortunately, they are fixed a lower limit of 3 megawatt. So previously, that during the notification which has ended in 2017, you can have subsidies up to even 1 kilowatt. But unfortunately, now the MNRE, which is the ministry under the Government of India, in the draft they have restricted now to the lowest limit to 3 megawatt. And we had, when I was at EMC, we had some discussion with the MNRE, and they told that they may sometimes go up to 1 megawatt. But what they say is, since they allot and subsidies are given, the central government, they have got no control over this, because all these rivers are the state property. So they are involving in smaller projects. So the last, what they are proposing is 50% subsidy for northeastern states and special areas. That is 50% of the capex, capital cost, which is fixed by the Central Electricity Regulatory Commission. And for other states like Kerala, Karnataka, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Andhra and all, it is 30% of the capex as fixed by the Central Regulatory Commission as time to time. I can just quote now the current rate of CERC for projects up to 5 megawatt is 7.79 crores. That is, you get a incentive for 1 megawatt up to 2.34 crores. 2.34 crores per megawatt, which is a very good amount. And for projects above 5 megawatt up to 25 megawatt capacity, the capex fixed as of now by the regulatory commission is 7.07 crores per megawatt. That means 30% of that you get a 2.12 crores subsidy. But of course, the maximum limit of subsidy is the limit of 10 megawatt. That is up to 10 megawatt limit, you can avail the subsidy. So actually, this is a good thing, and all panchayats and other promoters should make use of this opportunity, because this is going to be over by 2015 March, 31st March of 2015. So it is better to utilize this facility. Even KSEB can utilize this. Of course, they are utilizing it already, and the promoters can utilize this. Panchayats can utilize it. On land category people can utilize this. It's a very good scheme they are planning, and the promoters and manufacturers of machines and panchayats and the government body, of course, we have taken it up, but again you have to take it to the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, MNRE, Government of India, so that they will reinstate all the limits, so that the small projects, like these isolated projects, small peaker projects, micro hydro projects will get materialized. Otherwise, without this subsidy, the small turbines, the capex is more. So people will not venture into these type of schemes. So better you take it up. You can even need a body also can take it up. Thank you.
Sir, there is one last question. What is the potential of pumped hydro storage in Kerala, and how it will be affect the diversity interchange of power from central pool?
Yes, pumped power storage, actually, KSEB, during the Travancore Maharaja's period itself, there is a pumped storage near Munnar, the Munnar headworks. That water, excess water, still they are pumping it to the Chengulam augmentation scheme. So that is there. And KSEB has done a detailed study of around 10 schemes, and they have a proposal that you can tap around 2,000 megawatt or plus. And even now KSEB has given a consultancy assignment to the Government of India agency, WAPCOS, to study, that is a study of Idiki, again going for 760 megawatt, one more set of machines. But these pump storage studies are also being undertaken by KSEB now. It's a good potential, because the time of the day metering is going to come. So during the daytime, the power rate will be very less, so that with that less rate hours, we can pump back the water either to the same reservoir or any other reservoir downstream, so that from there water can be taken to some other plant. Otherwise, it is not, as you know, it is not efficient operation, because you are again wasting energy for pumping water back to the reservoir. This time of the meter scheme comes, then it will be very good opportunity, and also this will act also like a power storage, bank, because what is the issue with the renewable energy is these are all infirm power. The solar, you have solar plant of say 10 megawatt capacity, and suddenly the cloud cover comes, this 10 megawatt shoots down to say 1 kilowatt. So that much variation, even in small hydro also. In lean season, you don't have much generation. So these are all infirm power. We call the renewable energy, it is infirm power. So what the storage should be a option for KSEB and all. Otherwise, they will have to keep that much of installed capacity ready. If the renewable goes down, then they will have to again come out with this their installed capacity. So if you have a bank type of thing, storage type of thing, now the battery storage is very costly. Battery storage is very costly, and instead these type of pump storage powerhouses, power stations, can act like a battery. It's very good for this renewable energy to stabilize the system of these utilities. As you know, now batteries will become cheap because now in transport sector, e-mobility is coming up. So there are a lot of players researching on these batteries. Even there is a WhatsApp message stating one Bangalore firm has come out with an aluminum electrode type of thing. The battery with a one charge of electrode, it can run up to 1,000 kilometers. Of course, after 1,000 kilometers, you have to change that electrode and keep another one. Even still, that is good. And in Japan and all, I understand that they are coming out with this fuel cell cars. Which will give a real tough competition to these battery cars, because battery cars, what you say that it reduces pollution and all, but of course you need charge its batteries, for that you need power. So either you will have to get it from some other coal based projects from outside. Of course, it will not spoil our roads with gases and CO2 emissions and all, but still emissions will be there elsewhere. But whereas in the fuel cells, you don't have any such things. It's a pure magic. So this is a real competition coming up from fuel cell based cars. That will be a real competition for this battery operated e-cars as well. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I hope everyone got the answer for their queries. So I think we can finish the webinar. On behalf of EMC, I express my sincere gratitude to all of you who attended the webinar and our Nile sir for this wonderful session.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
For more details, you can contact Engineer Anup. His mobile number has been given in the public chat. I will repeat it: 9400068321. Once again, 9400068321. So you can contact Mr. Anup, Energy Technologies EMC, for these SHP activities.
So thank you, participants, and thank you, Thompson, and thank you, Dinesh, and thank you, the host, EMC, and my earlier colleagues. Thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.